of ETC 779. In this class, we are going to cover the remaining part of the break-even analysis. In the previous lecture, I had introduced you to the concept of break-even analysis. Just to summarize what we did in the previous lecture, I will spend few minutes. We defined break-even analysis as another form of sensitivity analysis. So, it is similar to sensitivity analysis. That is point number 1. Point number 2, what does it do? Basically, we are trying to locate that particular point at which the company is making neither the profit nor the losses. And this particular point, we defined it as break-even point. So, any production less than this break-even point production, company is making losses, whereas if the production level is higher than the break-even point production level, the company is making profit. We discussed the linear break-even analysis, where we assumed that the changes in revenue, the changes in direct cost, all these are related in a linear manner. So, they are following linear pattern. We defined what is meant by direct cost, what is meant by indirect cost, what is meant by fixed cost, what is meant by variable cost. So, these definitions we also had a small discussion. Then while closing of the lecture, we discussed about the different assumptions that we have as far as linear break-even analysis is concerned. Assumption number 1 was whatever quantity is being produced is being sold out. Another assumption was the direct cost, the revenue, everything is following a linear pattern, which in real life situation may not be the case. And then most important of all, we had assumed that the company for which we are doing the break-even analysis is only into a single product production. Now, if you closely look at these assumptions, you will find that in real life situations they do not have much meaning. But the idea behind assuming these things is to make our analysis simpler. We want to use simple mathematics so that it can be used by even the persons who does not have advanced knowledge of mathematics. Now, in this class, what we are going to see is we will try to find out through some example how companies try to lower the break-even point. If you remember in the previous lecture, I had told that companies do try to keep the break-even production level to as low as possible, because this gives them a lot of confidence. This they consider as a healthy sign. So, I had suggested 3 ways. First one, you increase the production. Second, you can reduce the cost. Third could be you increase the sales price. Now, these 3 methods you can do either in isolation or you can combine them depending on the case. So, we will start with this type of example first, in which we will try to reduce or lower the break-even point. So, you may please note down this particular problem. It is given on your slide. It says direct cost is $7 per unit. Sales price for this particular product is $12 per unit. Indirect cost is $400. So, using these three information, we should be in a position to calculate the break even point. That means how much the company should produce so that it is able to just recover the loss cost that it is incurring. So, this straight away we can use the formula also, or through our common sense also we can find out that how much the company should produce, which will just break even. So, you will find that break even point for this particular example would be $400 divided by 12 minus 7. Now, this 12 minus 7, if you remember the previous lecture, we had defined this as contribution. Contribution is what you are getting by selling 1 unit product. So, you find that if you are able to sell $80 units of product, you will be able to recover your total cost that you are incurring. Now, as a company, I would like to reduce this break even point. I want to bring down this 80 unit to some lower value. Suppose my target is to bring it down to 40 unit. What do? I have three ways. You can cross check whatever is shown on your slide. In the first case, I reduce the indirect cost. Let us say $400, somehow I am able to make it to $200. So, once you are able to control the cost and bring the indirect cost to $200, you will find that your revised break even point would now be 40 units. Now, there could be other way of bringing the break even point down. Maybe you can try to reduce the direct cost. So, from the original $7, if somehow you are able to bring this down to $2 per unit, you will find that your new break even point becomes 40 unit. So, these are the different ways through which I am trying to bring down my break even point. Why? Because it gives me confidence that okay, I am doing fine. It is a sign of healthy company. Now, the third way through which I can reduce the break even point would be by increasing the sales price itself. If I increase my sales price from $12 to $17, you will find that your new break even point would be 40. So, what you have seen in this particular example is that it is possible to bring down the break even point by applying different measures individually. The same result we could have obtained by adopting different permutations, combinations of these three measures. I could have partly increased my sales price, I could have partly reduced my cost. There could be many such combinations. The ultimate objective is to lower down the break even point. So, this simple example illustrates us that it is possible to bring down the break even point by doing something, maybe by increasing the sales price, by reducing the direct cost, or by reducing the indirect cost. Now, as another example, I take this problem. I will read it out for you. In this particular problem, I am assuming that the sales price is $12.50. The slide may not be that much clear to you. So, you please note it down what I am stating. Sales price is $12.50 per unit. The cost of equipment is $200,000. The cost of equipment is $200,000. The overhead cost is $50,000 every year. The operating and maintenance cost is $25 per operating hour. That means if you are operating 1 hour, it will be costing you $25. If you are operating for 2 hours, it will be $50. Production time per 1000 units is 100 hours. That means if you are producing 1000 units, it is going to consume 100 hours. And the planning horizon is given to be 5 years. That means the analysis period is 5 years. The rate of return, minimum attractive rate of return is 15%. Now, the question is to determine the sales volume that would make manufacturing this product profitable. That means we have to determine the sales volume that would make manufacturing this particular product profitable. That means how much the company should produce so that this particular product becomes profitable. So, to start with, you can again draw a cash flow diagram, because that is very easy to construct and it is very easy further to proceed from there onwards. So, you have an equipment cost of $200,000, that I represent it like this, $200,000. My overhead costs are $50,000 every year. For next 5 years. This is year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Operating and maintenance cost is $25 per hour. Production time is, O&M cost is $25 per hour. Production time per 1000 units is equal to 100 hours. That means if I am producing 1000 units, I am consuming 100 hours. So, for producing 1 unit, how much time I am consuming? 1000 units in 100 hours. So, 1 unit in 100 by 1000 hours. So, that is 1/10 of hour I am taking to produce 1 unit. Now, let us assume that I am producing X unit. So, for producing X unit, I will be taking X by 10 hours. Let us assume that I am producing X units, production X units. So, time would be X upon 10 hours. So, the O&M cost would be 25 X upon 10. because for 1 hour I have to spend $25. So for x upon 10 hours, I have to rather spend 25x upon 10. Now remember, x production is for 1 year. So I can add this also here every year. This becomes 25x upon 10. This is also 25x upon 10, 25x upon 10, 25x upon 10, and finally 25x upon 10. So what I have done? I know my initial cost, I know my operation and maintenance cost, and I also know my overhead costs, right? So my total cost is going to be, if I try to convert everything in annual cost, it would be like this. Total cost is going to be 200,000 present worth is given. I am interested in A, so I will write A given P. My interest rate is 15%. Planning horizon is 5 years plus 50,000 as overheads and overhead cost plus 25x upon 10. Now my sales price P is given to be $12.50 per unit. So the revenue that I am getting is 12.5x. This is every year. So you can also note it down, maybe this is annual total cost. This is annual revenue. Now at break even, what will happen? My total revenue and total costs, they are going to be equal, so that I am neither making any profit nor making any losses. So what I do, I just simply equate them and I write at break even, R is equal to TC. Now my R is 12.5x, and this must be equal to 200,000 A given P, 15% for a period 5 plus 50,000 plus 25x upon 10. Now I solve this equation and get the value of x. If you solve this, you will find that the value of x that you get is coming to be 10,966. So this is the answer. You can cross check it. So what does this x mean? It means that just to break even, that means just to recover your total spendings, you need to produce 10,966 units of this particular product. If you are producing less, it means you are making losses. If you are producing more than 10,966, it means the company is making profit. So this is how we perform break-even analysis of linear types. So that was just given so that you can practice and the concepts become more clear. Now, what we will do from here onwards is we will try to get rid of the assumptions that we had in linear break-even analysis. The first assumption, if you remember, it said the company is into single product. Now, I will tell you how to do break-even analysis if the company is into multiple products. The company may be making RMC, the company may be selling the precast panels, the company may be selling the wooden doors. So, how to perform break-even analysis in situations when companies are into different products? That is also sometimes known as multi-product linear break-even analysis. Whatever discussion till now we had were applicable for single product. We assume that company is into only this product. Now, we will see how to perform break-even analysis when a particular company is into different products. And that particular thing is known as multi-product linear break-even analysis. Now, what I do in this is I will collect the data for different products from the company. For example, product 1, what is the indirect cost? What is the direct cost per unit? What is the sales price? Like this, for all the products, I will be collecting the data. And then I will try to put all these break-even charts into one single chart. So, the concept should be more clear if we straight away move to an example, and you may please note it down. This example is supposed to illustrate the concepts of multi-product linear break-even analysis. For this, I assume that a company manufactures 3 products: product A, product B and product C. Now, I have collected data for these individual products from the company records. I find that product A sells for $8 per unit, product B sells for $5 per unit and product C sells for $4 per unit. Now, contribution per unit from product A is $6, from B it is $3 and from C it is $3 again. Now, what is this contribution? It is nothing but the difference of sales price minus your direct cost. That is what we have defined as contribution. We say the difference of sales price P minus direct cost per unit DC is my contribution. Now, the fixed cost associated with product A is $4,000. Fixed cost associated with product B is $7,000 and finally, for C it is given to be $1,000. And finally, if you see the last row of this particular slide, you find how many numbers are sold for each of the product. Product A sells 600 units, product B sells 4,000 units and product C sells 400 units. So, these data we have collected from a particular company, and now we want to perform multiple product break-even analysis. Here also the analysis is very simple if we follow step by step process. So, what we do here is we directly move to a break even chart in which on y axis I keep cost and on x axis I put quantity. Now, what I do is I take the data for product A. For product A, my fixed cost is 4,000. Let us say this is 0, this is negative value. So, let us say 4,000, this is 2, 3, this is let us say 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, like that. Now, my fixed cost for product A is 4,000. So, let us say I am at this particular point. I am at this particular point. This fixed cost means that even if I am not producing any product A, that cost anyway I have to spend. Now, let us say I start selling this particular product. At what contribution I am selling this? $6 per unit. I am selling it at $6 per unit. Now, the number of units sold is 600. The number of units sold is 600. So, how much would be the total contribution? It would be 6 multiplied by 600. So, 3600, and it will be proceeding in a linear manner like this. So, this is the break even chart for product A. You may notice that the point B, let us call this point as A, is still in the negative side. That means, even if we are able to sell 600 units, I have still not been able to recover my total cost. My fixed cost itself is $4,000, and even at maximum sale value of 600, I am just able to make 600 multiplied by 6, 3,600 only. So, this portion you will find that this is corresponding to 400. That means, I am still in loss. Now, on this chart itself, I will superimpose the data for product B. Now, for my product B, the fixed cost is 7,000. So, I will go on adding here. It will be somewhere here. This is point C. And can you tell me the coordinate of this point? It would be 7,400 in negative, because 400 is the net loss from your product A, and then on top of it we are adding the fixed cost of product B. So, how much down I am? from the x axis 7,400. Now, this particular product gives me a contribution of $3 and I am able to sell 4,000 units. So, it will be going something like this, and now it will go in plus side. Can you tell me the coordinate for point D? It would be 12,000 minus 7,400. So, it would be how much? How much is it coming? 4600. So, it will be somewhere at 4,600. How we have got at this point? I have simply added 7,000 in my previous loss. So, I was at total loss of 7,400, and then I am selling this particular product B and making a contribution of $3 per unit. I am selling 4,000 units. So, the total sales, total contribution is 4,000 multiplied by 3, 12,000. So, I am in plus side at 4,600 at point D. Now, this is as far as product B is concerned. Now, in this chart itself, I will superimpose the data for product C. How I do? I go further down by how much? By 1,000, because $1,000 is the fixed cost for product C. So, this point is somewhere, this drawing is not to the scale. So, do not worry about this. I am at point E here, which has a coordinate of 3,600. And now, from here onwards, this particular product is giving me $3 as contribution, and I am selling 400 units. So, my total contribution from this particular product C is 1,200. So, how much it is going to be? I am here at point F and it has a coordinate of 4,800. So, what I have done? I have taken individual product one at a time and then superimposed them together. So, I have got three different slopes: slope 1, slope 2 and slope 3. These are the three slopes or the gradients corresponding to three products A, B and C. Now, what I do? I just combine all these products, assume that they are all a single product. So, I add up total fixed cost for all the three products together. So, you will find that the total fixed cost is going to be 4,000 plus 7,000 plus 1,000, which is equal to 12,000. So, this will be somewhere here, it is not to the scale, let us assume somewhere here 12,000, and your total contribution you have to calculate. Total contribution is going to be 6 into 600. Total contribution is going to be like this: 6 into 600 from product A, 3 into 4000 from product B and 3 into 400 from product C. How much is the total? 3600 plus 12,000, 15,600 and plus 1200, 16,800. That will be in positive sides because 16,800 less 12,000 is 4,800. So, it is like this, and I can draw a line like this joining this point, and the last point F. So, something like this. Something like this. Now, this is more clearly shown in this particular figure. If you just see this particular slide on your screen, you may notice I have got 3 individual slopes and then there is a combined slope. Now, what I have to do in this, please note the please see this particular slide. I have got 3 lines, I have told you how to draw them, and then finally I have told you how to draw the composite line. So, if you are able to see, the single line that is shown in green color is the composite break even line, and this has been calculated by summing up the total fixed cost for all the 3 products and finding the total contribution from all these 3 products, and then they are simply joined together. Now, that single particular line is known as composite product composition line. The combined line is also sometimes referred to as composite product composition line. So, now you understand how to draw the individual break-even charts and how to draw the composite product composition line. Now, how do we interpret this particular chart? That is the next question. How do we interpret the composite chart and what is shown in the slide? So, what we do for each of the products, we compare the slopes with the composite contribution line. So, what you can see is that if the slope of a particular product is steeper than the composite line, that product is doing well. That means, for product B, you might notice if you have drawn the graph on a scale, you will find that for product B as well as for product C, the slope is steeper than the slope of the composite line. That means, these products are doing well. But if you notice product A, you will find that the slope of this particular product is not steeper than the composite line, it is flatter. It is flatter when you compare it with the composite line. It indicates that this product is not doing well. So, this is how we interpret a multiple product break even analysis results. Now, if you find that some product is not doing well, you have to take certain corrective measures. Maybe you may have to increase the sales price, maybe you can try to contain the direct cost, maybe you can try to contain the indirect cost. And that way, once you are able to take these corrective measures, you will find that its slope becomes steeper than the composite line. Once this happens, you understand that now this product is also in a healthy shape. So, this is how we analyze multiple product break-even charts. Now, we will see one more kind of phenomenon which is often practiced by some of the companies. If you try to recollect the first example that we did today, in that we had calculated the break even point as 80, and by increasing the sales price, by decreasing the direct cost, by decreasing the indirect cost, we were trying to get it to 40. The first problem which we did today. Now, suppose the break even point is 40 and the company is able to achieve, let us say, 60. That means company will make certain profit because his productions are more than the break even point. Now, even if you are producing 60 and let us say your company has a capacity to produce 100, that means you are still underutilizing your production capacity. You have a capacity to produce 100 and you are able to produce only 60 because there is not enough sale. So, what companies do? Sometimes they increase the production and the excess over this 60, they try to sell it at a lower price. The product remains same, but they lower the price. So, they do it in two ways. They will have the same product with two different brand names. The content of the product will be same. That is one way. This particular approach sometimes can backfire, because if a consumer comes to know about this, from next time onwards he will buy only that particular product which is selling at lower rate. So, in order to avoid this situation, what some companies do, they sell this particular excess quantity in foreign market, in different countries. So, you will find that there would be some manufacturer in your country who must be selling you a particular product at X dollar. The same product maybe in India we may be getting at Y dollar, and Y may be cheaper than X. So, this particular phenomenon, in order to increase the production capacity or in order to utilize the full production capacity, is known as dumping. This is known as dumping. So, if you notice this particular slide, it says that in order to utilize the full capacity, some products are sold at price P, while the remaining products are sold at lesser price P dash. So, what does this do? You will find that the expression for gross profit would change. Now, you are selling n unit of product at P minus DC contribution, whereas the remaining n dash product you are selling at P dash minus DC contribution. So, your gross profit is going to be n times P minus DC plus n dash time P dash minus DC minus F, where F is nothing but your fixed cost or indirect cost. Now, in order to avoid dumping, some countries they levy very high excise duty. If some countries come to know of this dumping, then sometimes they may blacklist that particular company itself, and this is how countries try to curb dumping practices. You will find that in some countries, some products from some country, they just simply flood it at very cheap price, very cheap cost. This is done to increase the utilization capacity in their parent country, and countries try to fight this dumping practices by levying heavy duty on imports. So, they will exercise heavy duty, the customs duty would be high, some other taxes would be imposed just to avoid this situation. Otherwise, you will find that the local companies which are making the genuine products, they will be at loss, because consumers would always tend to go to buy that cheaper product, and it will kill the domestic market. So, this particular process is known as dumping. So, you have seen that we have tried to cover up some of the assumptions that we did take for linear analysis. Now, the third assumption which we had taken was that the the direct cost, the revenue, all these are following linear pattern. So, this particular thing now we will try to change, and then this particular type of analysis would be known as non-linear analysis. What are the assumptions we changed? First one, we did analysis for multiple product. Second one we did was we explored the phenomenon of dumping, in which we are selling some products at some price and remaining product at some lower price. Now, the third assumptions which is going to be violated is non-assumption of linearity as far as the revenues, as far as the direct costs are concerned, and this type of analysis falls under non-linear break-even analysis. So, we straight away move to non-linear break-even analysis, because in real life situation you will notice that all the time you may not be able to observe linearity, and in order to model such situations you have non-linear break-even analysis. In non-linear analysis, the cost and revenue, they do not increase or decrease in linear fashion. For example, in real life situation you may be noticing that if you are buying one shirt, you may be buying it at some price, maybe 200 or 300 rupees, but the moment you buy 2 or 3 or 4, the shopkeeper may give you certain discount. So, that kind of situation we try to model it through non-linear break-even analysis. Now, what we do in this is, depending on the information on cost, revenue and the production level, we can always fit a curve and get an expression of P, which is sales price, in terms of N or C. Now, these curves can be used to compute the marginal cost as well as marginal revenue. Now, while on the topic of nonlinear analysis, I will introduce you to two terms. One is known as marginal cost, another one is known as marginal revenue. So, we straight away move to marginal cost and marginal revenue. As you can note down from this particular slide, marginal cost is defined as the additional cost incurred by the company to produce one extra unit of product. So, what is the additional amount that we have to incur in order to produce one extra unit? Suppose the company is able to produce 2 units in 100 rupees and 3 units in 125 rupees. So, the marginal cost would be 25 rupees, the difference of the two. So, from 2, if I want to produce one more, I have to incur 25 rupees extra. So, that is what is called marginal cost. Another example you can see in this particular slide. Suppose that the cost to produce 100 cubic meter of concrete is rupees 200,000 and the cost to produce 101 cubic meter of concrete is rupees 201,000. So, what is the marginal cost? Marginal cost to increase the production from 100 cubic meter to 101 cubic meter would be rupees 1000. How we have got this? The calculation is shown in the last line. Marginal cost is 201,000 minus 200,000 divided by 101 minus 100. So, the increase in cost divided by the increase in quantity. Now, this marginal cost also may vary. What happens? Suppose you are at lower level of production and you want to increase to slightly higher level. Maybe your cost requirement would be very high, but there may be a situation if you are at high level and if you want to raise further higher, the marginal cost would be low. So, it could be any way. So, that is why do not think that marginal cost is constant. That means, if you are producing from 100 to 101, this is 1000. It need not be same if I am producing from 150 to 151. The marginal cost may be different. So, depending on the problem, the marginal cost also may vary at different production levels, and the way to compute the marginal cost is increase in cost divided by increase in quantity. So, if you say increase in cost as delta C and increase in quantity as delta Q or delta N, so marginal cost is given by delta C upon delta N. If you see, it is like this. If let us say cost associated with production N1 is C1, C1 is the cost associated with N1 unit of production, and C2 is the cost associated with N2 units of production. So, marginal cost is defined as C2 minus C1 divided by N2 minus N1. This is nothing but delta C divided by delta N. Now, if the increase in quantity is very small, tending to 0, let us say, then this is approximated by dC upon dN. So, this is how we compute marginal cost. In a similar way, we define marginal revenue. So, if you look at the definition of marginal revenue, it is nothing but the additional money realized by selling one extra unit. For example, if you are selling 100 cubic meter of concrete for rupees 250,000, and by selling 101 cubic meter of concrete, the revenue is 252,000. The marginal revenue would be given by the difference in revenue divided by difference in quantity. In this case, for this example, the marginal revenue is going to be rupees 2,000. Now, if you just look at this, for N1 production level, let us say your revenue is R1, and for N2 production your revenue is R2. So, marginal revenue would be given by it will be given by delta R upon delta N, and if the increase or decrease in quantity is very small, this can be approximated by dr upon dN. So, this is what is marginal revenue. Now, once you have got the marginal cost as well as the marginal revenue, and you understand slight bit of calculus, it is always possible to determine the production level or the quantity of production at which the firm would be able to maximize its profit. So, here again our aim would be to find out the break even point, and besides this we have to find out that production level at which we will be able to maximize the profit. So, two things we have to perform in nonlinear analysis. First thing is to locate the break even point, and second thing would be to find out that production level, that value of N at which the company is able to maximize its profit. Now, before going into the calculus part, I will simply start with a small example through which I will be able to tell you how to calculate the average indirect cost, the average direct cost, the average total cost as well as the marginal cost. Remember, in this case the indirect cost won't be fixed, because if you are producing one unit, the indirect cost could be different. If you are producing 2 units, the average indirect cost is going to be different. So, this part I will tell you through this particular example. What is happening here is, I am given the values for different levels of production, that is N value is given to us, and corresponding to these N values I am given the indirect cost, I am given the direct cost, and I am also given the total cost. So, first 4 columns you concentrate. Are you able to see? The first column gives you the values of n. Second column, it gives you IC, indirect cost. Third column, it is giving you direct cost. And if you add IC and DC, it is nothing but total cost, that is given in fourth column. Now, if you look at the second column, the indirect cost is given to be 3000. It is constant throughout, irrespective of the value of n. Now, direct cost in third column is given. If you are producing 1 unit, it is 700, 2 units, it is 1300, 3 units, it is 1800, 4 units, it is 2400, 5 units, it is 3100, 6 units, it is 3900, 7 units, it is 4900, 8 units, it is 6200, and 9 units, it is 7800. So, for finding the total cost, I will add these values into my indirect cost. So, you can notice the total cost corresponding to 0 n is 3000, corresponding to n is equal to 1, it is 3700, corresponding to n is equal to 2, it is 4300, corresponding to n is equal to 3, it is 4800. Like this, I have calculated the total cost. Now, I will introduce 3 terms. They are called average indirect cost, average direct cost, and finally average total cost. These values are given in column 5, 6 and 7. AIC is average indirect cost. ADC is average direct cost, and ATC is average total cost. So, these are very simple thing and it is not difficult to calculate them. For example, if you are producing 1 unit, your average indirect cost would be 3000 divided by 1. If you are producing 2 units, your average indirect cost is going to be 3000 divided by 2, which will be 1500. So, basically what we are doing is average is nothing but we are calculating average indirect cost, average direct cost, and finally average total cost. Average indirect cost is nothing but indirect cost divided by n. Average direct cost would be DC divided by n, and average total cost is nothing but total cost divided by n. And how do I calculate the marginal cost? The last column, it may not be that clear to you visibility wise, but it is the difference how much extra you have to incur in order to produce 1 extra unit. For example, the total cost that you are incurring in producing 1 unit is 3700, and if you are not producing anything, that means 0 production, you are still incurring 3000. So, the difference is 700. That means, if you want to increase your production from 0 to 1, you have to incur $700, and that is what we call as marginal cost. Now, if I am producing 2, my cost is going to 4300. So, how much is the marginal cost? The difference of 4300 minus 3700, which is 600. That means, if I want to increase my production from 1 unit to 2 units, I have to incur an additional expenditure of $600. So this is how I calculate average indirect cost, average direct cost, average total cost as well as marginal cost. Now this was as far as dealing with numerical problems are concerned. The same thing you can see it in graphical manner. I have plotted the different values of AIC, different values of ADC, different values of ATC, and finally different values of MC. You may find that none of them are following linear pattern. They are all following non-linear pattern, and that is why we call them as non-linear break-even analysis. So there could be two types of problems. One in which you are given the numerical values corresponding to different n values. In another type of problem, you may be given different variables such as sales price, direct cost in terms of some expression in terms of n. For example, you could be given a expression like this, in which sales price P is given as 21,000 divided by under root n. This is another type of problem. So for different values of n, if we want, we can get the value of P. So we are given the expression itself. Using this expression, I can always calculate the marginal revenue. Revenue is defined as n times P, and marginal revenue would become dr upon dn, which is d by dn of np. And if you differentiate it, you will find that the marginal revenue for this expression is going to be 10,500 divided by under root n. This simple calculus. P will be given in terms of n in some expression form. It could be logarithmic, it could be exponential, it could be some form of algebraic function, anything. So through that expression, we will be in a position to calculate the marginal revenue. Now another data is also given for this problem. It is given that indirect cost is $1,000 per period, and direct cost also is given, which is $1,000 per unit. So using these set of data, I can always calculate the value of Z, that is total profit, which is going to be R minus TC, revenue minus total cost. Same thing here also, only thing we have an expression. Earlier also we had expression, but they were in linear fashion. Here it could be polynomial, here it could be some logarithmic function, here it could be some exponential function, because we are performing non-linear analysis. Now here also you may notice that at break even I have assumed that total cost is equal to revenue. That means total profit is 0. That is the same concept we are using. That means at break even we are neither making any profit nor making any losses. So Z is 0. So once I equate Z to 0, you may get an expression like this. If you further simplify this, you may get a quadratic equation in terms of n, and you may get two values of n. For this particular problem, I am getting n is equal to 54 or 188. Now you may notice that I have got 2 points, 2 production level at which I am making break even. If I am producing 54 units, then also I am neither making any profit nor making any loss. And if I am producing 188 units, then also I am neither making any profit nor any loss. Very interesting situation. Even if you are producing less, you are not making money, and beyond this point there is a point at which you are neither making any profit nor making any loss. That means if you try to plot this curve using the expression that is given to you, you may find a curve like this. Something like this. This may be n is equal to 54. This may be n is equal to 188. So, here at this point, at this production level as well as at this production level, we are neither making any profit nor making any loss. So, in between we have to try what is the production level at which my profit is going to be maximum. So, that we achieve by using the simple concept of calculus, which says that at the point of maximum profit the rate of change is 0, that is my dz by dn is equal to 0. Now, if you calculate the dz by dn, you will find you are getting a value of n is equal to 110. That means at this particular production level of 110, you are getting a maximum profit. More than that, if you are trying, your profit is still there, but it is not in that proportion. It will slightly be reducing. That is why when you are producing 188 units, you are neither making any profit nor making any losses. Now, what I will do is, I will give you another problem, simple problem, which you can try. You may please note it down. I will increase the font size of this particular slide, so that it will be more clear to you. Yes, I will read out this problem for you. A particular product has a unit price that starts at $78 with a $0.1 discount for each unit purchased. So, that means for every unit purchase, you are getting a rebate or a discount of $0.1. Now, if the fixed costs are $800 per month and the variable cost per unit is $30 per unit, determine the demand quantity that maximizes the savings of making and the break even quantities. So, there are two parts in this problem. You have to first of all find out the break even quantity, and second one, you have to calculate that production quantity or that demand quantity at which you get the maximum saving. So, with this, I would like to conclude this break even analysis, and if you have got any doubt, you may please ask. Technology class, you have any doubt?
Yes, we have it out.
Please tell me.
Hello, doctor.
Yeah.
I have been sending you a question through your email address.
Two questions you have sent. Yes, I will reply you. I couldn't get time. I will reply your questions.
Okay, thank you. That was my question.
Okay. Any other question?
No question.
Thank you. You want to note down this particular slide? The question for you? You want to note it down? Please note it down, and whatever lectures we have covered after lecture 16, I will be sending you the slides tonight. So, lecture 17, 18, 19 and 20th, I will be sending you the handouts tonight. Thank you and good night.
Sir, here P is equal to 78 minus 0.1 n.
Huh, 0.1x or whatever you say. And fixed cost is $800 per month.
And PC is equal to 30.
Yes.
So, do you have the answer?
I will give you the answer. I think I should be having.
Thank you, doctor.
Okay, thank you. Good night.